What up? I'm Josh Paulson, and welcome to Your Story Now. Today we're going to be talking about range of interpretation in media. So we're going to look at a few different pieces in different media and discuss their range of interpretation. So I'm going to start by actually reading a very short passage from a musical script. Now I don't want you to consider the final form of a musical, I want you to simply hear this section and consider the range of interpretation of it in text. Why substitute a father with a child and count on him to shepherd just as well? Why set the family's pride on the youngest one and her scholarship for learning magic spells? Why does grandma stay with us when she's so able? Why does Comfrance dream of joining knighthood's table? Because nothing else has filled these voids. So when you are just hearing text, when you're just hearing words, there's a very open range of interpretation. Who is speaking? Who are they talking about? Now you have some information. You have why substitute a father with a child? You have a grandma, you have a name Comfrance. So you have some information, but it's still very open to interpretation in this form. And something that's worth considering is that as you are writing a script, so for example, if you're writing a screenplay, essentially you are starting with an open interpretation, and then you are getting it more closed over time as you get closer and closer to your medium. Generally, regardless of what you are doing, even just in the brainstorming phase, you are starting with a very open range of interpretation and slowly closing it off. Like you might start with a broad idea, and then you write your story outline, and then you write your screenplay, and then you actually film it, and then you're editing it, and you piece it all together. Essentially, you're moving from open interpretation to closed. Because what's happening is that the story is more set. How characters look, how they are acting exactly. All of that is becoming more specific as you move further along in your production. Now let's look at another work that is completed. I'm going to play a little bit of dramatized audio here.
Bob, get out of the toilet!
Susie yelled at her friend. He thought just because he was older, he could do whatever he wanted. Well, he couldn't.
Susie, can't you see? I dropped my dentures in there! I don't care! Well, I do!
And that settled it.
So what we have here is a more closed range of interpretation than just the text, because you are given audio. And so, yes, you have to imagine the visual. What does the bathroom look like? What do Bob and Susie look like? But you're given information through the sound. And so you're given some information. And so the range of interpretation is more closed than just hearing text or hearing an early script. Now, I want to point out, neither of these is better or worse than the other. It really depends on your goal for the story. One of the benefits of audio is that you really are brought into that audio and you focus on the audio, whereas comparatively, if you are looking at text, then you're kind of looking at everything or wherever the writer directs your focus. So now let's look at one more medium. Let's look at a comic. I want a baby goat at the petting zoo raffle. Goat, goat. Try to make sure it doesn't take over the world. Goat! 10 minutes later, no. No, I will not bow. So what we have here is some visual information about how the characters look. We don't really have much information on the world, and we get their dialogue. So as a result, the audio is open to interpretation. If you read this yourself, you could imagine all sorts of different voices. And since it's black and white, we don't know, well, is their world in black and white? Is the world actually in color, which later comics are in color, so maybe that lends credence to that idea. But you have some information, and yet there's still a lot open to interpretation. So we have, again, we have more closed, not necessarily more closed than the audio, because the audio is open to interpretation, but we have some information that we're given, but we still have openness about how it sounds, even things like temperature, how the world feels. So we have quite a bit of information, but we're still limited. We still have a limited range of interpretation, because you can't say, well, okay, they're saying something other than what they're saying. So the goat is saying goat. The goat's not saying sheep. He's saying try to make sure it doesn't take over the world. He's not saying something different. You have a closed range of interpretation. And this is the basic of how different media work. Along the range of interpretation scale, you can mark them at different points. In upcoming videos, we're going to get into specifics on how you can actually identify these media and clarify their strengths and their weaknesses.